Man is inherently evil. There are many sources that provide evidence for this claim. The story Good Country People gives us a look at a person born evil beyond measures. The character Pointer pretends to be a good country religious Bible salesman, when, in reality, he is not religious and is not a good country person. Pointer does not believe in God and never has. Yet, he goes out of his way to convince people that he is a good religious Christian and accepts the hospitality he gets from it. He also goes around, tricks people into intimate situations, only to steal from them for no apparent reason. Pointer's life revolves around this deceit, going around with his hollow Bible, drinking whiskey, playing cards, and screwing people over for no reason, with no remorse. Deceitfulness is by all means an immoral, evil characteristic. There is no backstory or any justification for why Pointer does what he does, nor would there be anything in his past that would justify his despicable acts anyway. Therefore, the only reason Pointer would do what he did was because he himself is inherently evil.
In the short story Good Country People, it details the unfortunate interaction between Joy, or Holga, Hopewell, and Manly Pointer. Pointer is a traveling Bible salesman who turns out to be more sinister than he first seems. However, to use Manly Pointer as a representation of man's natural evil would be like shooting fish in a barrel. In order to truly consider man's natural evil, one must assess each of the people in the story. With the exception of Pointer, the rest of the characters are exactly as described. Good country people. Joy does not begin with evil intentions, though falls prey to Pointer's unusual behavior and manipulation. Her mother has good intentions and is shown to care immensely for her daughter. In terms of characters, the only supposedly evil person is Pointer, though the reader is given little information as to what his motivations are. It can be interpreted that Pointer is teaching Joy a lesson about how she is not superior to anyone else. And while the ends don't justify the means, this begs the question, were Pointer's intentions actually good? Thinking with this teaching a lesson mindset, his intentions seem to be more in line with long-term improvement of character rather than unwarranted aggression. Evil is a word that people tend to use to distance the people they believe are immoral from the rest of the human race, when in reality, this man is just a person, just as the woman is, and while he is potentially capable of committing evil acts, it is important to understand that he is not an evil person.
Another source is the Stanford Project experiment. In the Stanford Project experiment, men are placed in an environment with roles each man has to fill, either prisoner or prison guard. They are not told what to do, yet the people in the experiment immediately get to work. The experiment very suddenly escalates as the guards overuse their newfound power. One man in particular gets a rise out of provoking the inmates and controlling them. The experiment has brought out his already existing evil. There was nothing that would have justified the evil the man inflicts, so the enjoyment out of the evil would have been something the man was born with. There is another man involved in the experiment who wants the prisoners to be treated just as bad as he was in prison. Why would the man get joy out of the suffering of others if not already born with the craving for great evil? Those people were not the only evil ones either. The very men who derived the experiment did not stop the evil that was being committed, but was rather intrigued by it. Evil appeals to them, as it does to all men. Even when given the tools that one can use to commit immoral acts, a moral person would not utilize these tools. Rather, a person who is inherently evil would be the one to commit evil with their resources. If you place a gun in front of a man in a bar fight, he could use it to shoot his opponent, or he could just leave it alone.
A person is not born with evil in them. The environment around them is what determines their reactions. There is a famous experiment detailing the potential actions of college students when put in a prison simulation. This story was adapted in the movie The Stanford Project. The story describes how the men who were put into the roles of guards became abusive and violent as the power had gone to their heads. In a way, they had forgotten that they were in an experiment. However, this was not their inherent evil coming out. They had simply been put in an environment that had given them the tools to commit immoral actions. The man in charge of the experiment had wanted to observe how intense their reaction would be, and so he gave them the ability to act as guards would in a real prison. In the end, the students became a product of the resources that they were given, not once being discouraged from their actions. How the students reacted did not make them evil. It simply showed how reactive and malleable humans can be. As is stated in the movie, the only thing that separated the guards from the prisoners was a flip of a coin, and no one knows if the prisoners would have acted the same in the guards' position.
Evil is exemplified in the vicious killer, Ted Bundy. Ted Bundy grew up to kill many. He is an obvious narcissist and appears to feel invincible to the people seeking justice. There is nothing in his life that would warrant the murders he committed. Some may say that the trauma of finding out his father was not his father shaped him to be the evil he became, but many people find out news this huge and do not go on to kill people. Ted Bundy was a bit off from a young age because he was born as an evil man and was always destined to act on the temptation of being evil.
Many people believe that the most evil thing a person can do is to kill another person. For example, one of the most infamous killers of all time is Ted Bundy, whose crimes are explained in the docuseries The Bundy Tapes. While many see him as a monster and a vicious murderer, many people fail to take into account his mindset and who he was before he became a killer. As a teenager, Ted Bundy was clearly exhibiting signs of sexual violence and isolating behaviors, but as mental health was not looked at the same as it is now, these behaviors were dismissed, leading them to simply get worse. Mental illnesses such as antisocial personality disorder or psychopathy are often overlooked and written off as scary or even evil, leading many people to be left untreated and without control over what they are thinking and feeling. Ted Bundy, as well as many other criminals, was then sent to jail, which inevitably made him worse, not better. In reality, it is not the people themselves who are evil, it is their actions.
We can all agree that in certain circumstances, evil can be brought out in man.
We can also agree that everyone is subjected to evil.
But this does not necessarily mean that everyone will act on evil temptation.
I'm Vanessa,
I'm Cassidy.
And I'm Chris.
and thank you for coming to our TED Talk.